All the brands I'm talking about today are not from Switzerland. In fact, they make Switzerland look like toy watchmakers things. The irony of this is that all brands come from countries that actually hate each other significantly. With that being said, let's head to China. Yes, China. China is known for fake watchmaking. 99.9% or maybe even 100% of the replicas produced in the world are coming from China. We can all say that replica watches are shit. They are, and you should never buy one, but the replicas, the clones, are becoming significantly better, and that shows that the quality of watchmaking is increasing significantly in China. And one of the brands, and I would say the pioneers in China for making proper watches.
They're not replicas?
No, not replicas. Pioneers of Chinese watchmaking is, of course, Ciga Design. I just want to clarify this. I've spoken about Ciga Design before, and I wasn't sponsored or whatever. This time, I'm actually being supported by Ciga Design, which I really appreciate. Ciga Design is a Chinese watch brand that started in 2016 and actually are the first Chinese, if not the first brand from that part of the world, yeah, where they eat weird fish. Maybe even the first foreign brand that has won the Oscars for watches. They have won in total 17 design awards throughout the years. They won the Challenge Watch of the Year in 2021 at the Oscars for watches, aka the GPHG. Ciga Design is making big moves. A lot of brands copy each other, trying to make the same thing, same bracelet, same dial. Ciga is really original in what they actually do. They use modified Swiss movement, they use Chinese and Japanese movements, I believe, but as well as that, they have their own in-house movements in some of their watches. And they're working on several of their own new calibers. It's insane. It's hard to make something original. And fair play to Ciga. For Ciga Design, it all started with the Blue Planet. That's this. This is the Blue Planet number 2. This is a different variation, but this is the one that actually won the GPHG awards. This is the Atlantic variation. These watches tell time completely different than a conventional watch. This watch actually uses the compass to tell the time. From this exact watch, they created several different iterations, including a collaborative piece with Label Noir, who made several other watches with brands like Maurice Lacroix. More on that in a second, but this is the Blue Planet, the one that actually won the GPHG awards. They went in insane detail, and you can even see the Rocky Mountains somewhere at the bottom. It's class. A case that is fully made in titanium and retails, I believe, $1,400. Then the second iteration is the Moonwalker, a watch that works exactly the same as the Blue Planet. However, it doesn't have a compass to tell the time. It actually has a astronaut on the dial that tells the time. Yeah? An astronaut. A man.
Neil Armstrong.
Is that Neil Armstrong? I know they engraved Neil Armstrong's footprint on the dial somewhere. Because you know what? Moonwalker, moon, walk, footprint. Because that's what you do when you walk. To be honest, this micro engraving is quite insane. That is accurate till 0.1 millimeters. Is that 10% of a millimeter? That's 10% of a millimeter. That's insane. I really love that. And again, it's a different way of telling the time. I think it's really cool and unique. And the last one is the collaborative piece together with Label Noir, powered by a Swiss caliber, completely modified because a movement like this doesn't exist. That's what I think is cool. It is unique. Pushing themselves out of their comfort zone and making something that is not there yet. These watches are the first of its kind. And normally when something innovative like that is created, it's done by very expensive watchmakers like François Pazur. The black hole in the middle is painted with like this mad super black paint, one of the blackest paint that exists. Meaning 99% of the light around the watch, around the dial, is being absorbed by a black hole. So that's kind of a cool thing. These guys, Ciga Design, are disrupting the Swiss watch industry. And to be fair, the presentation boxes are also quite unique. If you want to know more about Ciga, first link in the description, up to the next watch brand. And this time we're heading to America, the US of A. Actually, the US was a really rich country regarding watchmaking, dating back at the 1800s. Due to the quartz crisis, watchmaking in the US died in the 60s, 70s. Today, I want to highlight a proper American watchmaker, that the majority of the components is fully hand-built in the US.
I thought you didn't want to talk about Trump watches anymore.
Yeah, that's China. That's proper China, to be honest. But you Americans that watch me, support me, I love you guys to bits. I love America. America, but I've always found it very sad that there is no watchmaking industry. One man in particular is changing this. Mr. Josh Shapiro, the founder and owner of J&N Shapiro Watches. Like I said before, the majority of the watch is fully produced in the US. This is not some micro brand bollocks. They're working on a process where they can actually manufacture the last parts of that in-house in the US. That's impressive. Don't get me wrong, these watches are not cheap, but anything hand-built, anything that's done at this standard will never be cheap. These watches actually start from about $25,000. The irony of Josh Shapiro is that he started this watch brand while he was inspired by a watchmaker, again, not from Switzerland. In this case, a British man, one of the best, if not the best watchmaker ever existed, Mr. George Daniels, resident of the Isle of Man.
Tax-free benefits.
Tax-free benefits, you know yourself. Well, he's definitely tax-free right now because he's dead as I think Shapiro Watches is in California and he gets taxed to the moon. There are several series of watches including Resurgence and the Infinity. The Infinity being on a more affordable end, starting from about $25,000 I believe. I have never spoken with Mr. Shapiro. I have never engaged with the brand. However, on the background I've followed Josh and his brand for the last 2 years. This is a proper watchmaker. This is Swiss level standard, if not higher. On that note, we're heading to America's best friend, Russia, Mr. Putin. Before we head to Russia, please make a stop at prideandpinion.com or come to Belfast. If you want to buy or if you want to sell your watch, we're authorized dealers of many brands, including Ulysse Nardin, Tissot, Raymond Weil. There's more coming. prideandpinion.com. That's where you go. Russia has a real rich history with watch brands. And actually, there's a big community of people that collect Russian watch brands, and specifically Russian watches that were used in a war. I hear you thinking, which war? Because Russia is always in a war. Russia loves war. Russia thinks a wee bit like Nazi Germany back in the day, right? They think, you know what? War makes money. Simple as. All the industries, like weapon industry, they're all making money. And look at Hitler, right? He made roads. He created a lot of jobs. And all of a sudden, people were making money. There you go. We wouldn't have any tarmac roads today if it wasn't for Adolf. It is what it is. I don't know if that's true, but I think it's true. It could be. If there's any historical, if there's any historic person watching this, am I wrong or am I wrong? All right, let me know. Yeah, that's a shame. Russia. There's several watch brands, but I want to highlight a watchmaker. A very special watchmaker, also a well-known watchmaker. A watchmaker I actually met in person, a guy called Konstantin Chaikin. His English is as good as my watchmaking. I swear on my life. Konstantin Chaikin doesn't just make watches. He makes like cartoons. Cartoons that tell the time. It's insane. You've probably seen the Joker before, but it's just so funny for me to see this from the outside, where the Swiss is trying to perfect everything and take everything so serious. There is this guy, this Russian guy, that is creating a watch that just sticks his tongue out every first of the month. Absolutely hilarious. This guy doesn't give a flying I love a wee bit of character, and it is so recognizable. Konstantin Chaikin. He doesn't just produce a cartoon watch. He was also the designer, the producer, the engineer behind the thinnest watch ever created. This was only for about a year, but he still did it. 1.65 millimeters thick. That's nearly the size of my you know what I mean? Really, really thick. Thin. What a guy, what a watchmaker, and what a brand this is going to be in the near future. He has a lot of respect in the Swiss watch world already. As soon as Konstantin can build his brand to scale, I am pretty sure it's going to be one of the biggest brands that are not coming from Switzerland. There's a funny story. Apparently, he strapped a watch to a bear to test his durability of the watch. Like, I don't know how you retrieve the thing after, but Russians do things different. How did you put it on his wrist in the first place, by the way?
Is it on the wrist of a bear?
I don't know. I heard this story. Maybe it is true.
Bear just rocking around.
The Joker watch. Let me see it. What is the story about this, actually? I don't know about the authenticity of this story of the bear, but I kind of like it.
Don't let the truth get in front of a good story.
Yeah. Never let the truth get away of a good story. Johnny, do me a favor. Put up the screen where you see all the Jokers. Like, it's genuinely unbelievable. There's so many cool variations. There's minions, like minions. I remember when they were totally sold out. They were going for 50, 60 G's. Like, but what a guy. He doesn't give a mate. That's what we need in our industry. People that don't give a I missed that. From the depths of Russia, from the home of Mr. Vladimir Putin, we're now heading towards an ally of course, Russia.
Are they?
Japan is an ally of Russia, yeah, for sure. Or is there an ally of America?
I honestly have no clue.
we're heading towards Japan. Japan is not a stranger to watchmaking. Japan and Japanese people have stirred the watchmaking world significantly throughout the history, including nearly destroying the entire Swiss watch industry during the quartz crisis. And in this case, I refer to, of course, Seiko bringing out a quartz module, meaning a battery-powered movement that was significantly more accurate and significantly cheaper to produce. And therefore, nearly 60% of the Swiss watchmakers got absolutely done by. They went bankrupt. The Japanese do not take prisoners. However, Seiko that we know today has, of course, several departments. Seiko, then we have Grand Seiko. It's basically the same thing as Seiko, but then with a more expensive price tag. Grand Seiko standing for at least $1,000. The lefties usually get offended by this. The lefties really love Grand Seiko. They're really defending themselves that they spend so much money on a Seiko. I love it, mate. We all get it. Some of them, like the new release, like the Grand Seiko, mate, it would put Hublot to shame. That said, their dials are spectacular. Amazing. Is a dial worth $5,000? Oh, I'll leave that up to you. Then we have another brand from Seiko called Crador. And Crador is like the ultra luxury end of the spectrum. Crador is worth every penny. Crador is special. Don't ever talk shit on Crador. Crador is the daddy. I've been a big fan of Crador for many years. But beside the Seiko Corporation, there are independent watchmakers. And one really stands out for me. Hajime Asoka, a guy that actually got into watchmaking at a later stage of his life, same as George Daniels. George Daniels didn't make any watches until he turned 50, funny enough. And then he became basically the best watchmaker ever existed. Hajime Asoka in later life started with watchmaking. And with this brand, he makes one of the most spectacular watches I have ever seen. The Tourbillon 1. This watch brand beats the Swiss any day of the week with his eyes closed. It's insane. As you may know, I'm a big fan of the chronograph, and his chronograph is hands down one of the most insane chronographs ever created. However, the Kronenfeld chronograph is still my favorite of all time. I'm not gonna lie. But if you're able to get your hands on one of these watches, you will be one of the luckiest people in the world.